Yes, we more than doubled year over year from the last report.
I think that's all he has to say.
Thank you so much. We'll see you. We're going to go buy some Neovolta stock.
Thanks, guys, for joining us. Hi there. How's it going? Welcome to Freelancer Finance, of course.
Look who came to visit.
Yeah, you want to tell us a bit about who you are and what your company does?
Sure. I'm Brent Willson. I'm the CEO and founder of Neovolta. And we make high-end energy storage systems at both now the commercial and residential level.
Why did you say that, like both now?
Because I just rolled out commercial. So commercial is 3-phase, 208 volt. Power is different than residential, which is 120, 240. And now we can go into commercial applications. That's a new improvement as of the last couple of weeks.
Well, that's kind of amazing. So we're already 1 minute in, we're already getting
and we're already getting
everybody.
Why is that something that's just happening now? What was the reason that it wasn't done at the same time? Like, why is this?
Inverters are set up to do certain things. All solar panels are direct current. All batteries are direct current. All batteries in cars are direct current. And so you have to invert things to make it alternating current to work with your home, right? And so the inverter is the key to everything. It's the brains. And we came up with some different firmware that worked out a couple glitches, and I'm just now getting around to rolling that out. I've had a long laundry list of things to work on for the last couple of years, and that one's finally come to fruition. And the reason why that's important is we've got a supply issue in the United States, electrical supply issue. You're no longer going to the corner or neighborhood gas station to fill up your vehicle. Everybody has an electric vehicle. They're largely powering those vehicles up from their home or maybe from their business, but that alone has increased the home's electrical usage, one electric vehicle, by anywhere between 30 and 40% on a daily basis. Last time I checked, the United States was not in the process of adopting more and more energy production. And so we have a finite supply, and yet demand is soaring. At least here in California, we're getting rolling blackouts. And it's mainly in the summer months when residents and businesses are using a lot of air conditioners. The supply is outstripped by demand. On the commercial side, a lot of businesses just want some backup for their servers so that they can stay in some level of business while the geographic area is suffering one of these blackouts or brownouts.
You're already skipping ahead, but good.
Yeah.
We get right to the meat of it. There are supply issues across many companies, including Tesla, which still cranks out all their cars, but you need cells in your batteries because you have big batteries, right? 14 kilowatt and 24
Correct.
kilowatt, if I'm not mistaken. Are you supply constrained basically? Or are you production?
What are you doing? What are you doing to make sure you get batteries when everyone's getting batteries and
when
there's
everybody
much bigger
wants
plays
batteries in their mother
that can have much bigger orders? How do you ensure you get what you need?
So one of the very first decisions I made when starting the company was what was going to be the battery chemistry. So Neovolta uses lithium iron phosphate because number one, it doesn't catch on fire. It does not. Certified to not catch on fire ever. And number two, it's not in the same space with all the electric vehicles. I didn't want to be having to compete with Ford, GM, or Tesla, or whoever looking for cobalt if cobalt all of a sudden started having a supply issue. So most of our competitors use that same battery chemistry, which is lithium ion. Lithium ion has cobalt and manganese. And when those ingredients are mixed, they can potentially have fire risk and thermal runaway risk. And it's extremely well documented. The good news about lithium ion, it's extremely lightweight and holds very high energy density. Okay, that's great for all the things that move. But energy storage systems bolted on a business or on the side of a residence, they move one time. So I wasn't worried about the weight, and I didn't need to be in the same supply space. But more importantly, I wanted to be able to sleep well at night and not worry about the risk of somebody's house burning down.
So you are not supply constrained, to put it in one sentence. That's kind of amazing. Well, everybody else is supply constrained.
Right. And the reason why is because out of the gate, you made the decision to base your batteries on technology or raw materials that would not compete with the growing EV space.
That's part of it. And another part of it is kind of accidental. We had some very large purchase orders that I got a little bit ahead. So instead of having about a 2-month supply of on hand of all the parts and pieces we need on hand, we ended up with about a 4-month supply as we're waiting for these contracts to actually kick in. So we've had zero supply issues.
you're saying everybody else, especially for cars, obviously, are using lithium ion, which
Correct.
we've seen images where it catches on fire and it lasts for a couple of hours or I don't know,
Yes.
8 hours, who knows? But that doesn't happen frequently, right? It's not like, is this a big actual risk?
It doesn't happen frequently. The issue is that chemistry, if it gets exposed to oxygen and moisture, it then can have this fire risk. You know, vehicles, you get in car accidents and stuff, and that's what exposes it. Tesla has changed their chemistry several times in the last year and a half, and good on them. They're trying to perfect it. One of the issues from a regulatory point of view, and especially here in California, is both federally, but also at the state level. If you're a lithium battery, they lump you all in the same category. So I get treated regulatory wise as if I have the lithium ion batteries that can catch on fire. These regulations have come out because of these fire risks. Homes have burned down, lives have been put in jeopardy, and the regulators are finally getting caught up to this. So now you have to have all these enhanced, fire testing and fire certifications, which we've done, and we're certified we do not catch on fire. But they don't give you credit because you're still lumped into the same bat with everybody else.
So if I run a car into your battery and I back up into it, does it have a chance of catching on fire?
No chance.
No chance. My car will catch on fire, but your battery will catch on fire.
The car will catch on fire.
You have other issues.
I just want to make sure
the battery is not an issue.
You mentioned that you have more supply now. So sometimes that's a bad thing because if you don't have more demand, do you have the demand to keep up with the supply that you have in your warehouse?
Currently, we have no supply issues. With the ports being as backlogged as they are, we have no issues. I've got containers full of things right off Long Beach right now. The situation is starting to improve. So I'm not forecasting that we're going to have any issues, but obviously it's something we keep a close eye on.
Aren't you paying more for the containers too? So are you increasing your prices of the actual batteries?
That's true. Worldwide shipping has gone up exponentially to everybody. We did a modest price increase a few months ago, and so far I'm going to hold the line where it is. We're going to absorb that. I mean,
what's the price? Can you tell us the price?
Generally, an MB14 installs, that's the basic energy storage system without the extra 2 batteries. That installs for anywhere between, $15,000 and $16,000. That's permitting and everything. The reason why it's not something I can really discuss, as an example, permitting in San Diego is free. Permitting in San Jose can be north of $1,000. So everywhere you go has different costs, and those businesses have different costs, and that greatly affects the price of any system. And it's a wide variety because of this permitting issue in particular.
What % of the current demand that you have is your capacity?
And also factory, right?
How many units is that? Like, how many units are you pushing out now that you're comfortable? And then what would you be able to ramp up if you had no supply constraints at all?
We can double every 3 months as needed.
You're
easily.
telling us 100% growth every 3 months?
From a production and a supply point of view, yes, we can. We have that capability, we have that capacity, and I can get all of the parts and supplies and everything we need to put together a system on a 3-month cycle. I can increase all of that. Yes.
What's the actual growth yearly that you're experiencing right now?
Well, we just
roughly,
released,
obviously.
We grew more than 100% year over year, and we just recently
I saw 200%. Is that accurate? 193%. Was that accurate?
Well, the S1. So it depends on how you define that number, but yes, we more than doubled year over year from the last report.
I think that's all he has to say. Thanks, guys, for joining us.
Thank you so much. We'll see you. Going to go buy some Neovolta stock.
You did mention competition, and I want to discuss some competition. And obviously, it has to do with your chemistry, as we already discussed. But these guys are sort of big. Tesla Powerwall, Sonam, I believe, is a European manufacturer of batteries.
Out of Germany.
BYD. Oh, out of Germany. Okay, BYD is a Chinese manufacturer. So these are some large players. Okay, first tell us, why are you better than these guys if you think you are? And the second reason is, can you compete with these guys?
That's an awesome question. And it's interesting that that chart looks very similar to some things I started putting together when contemplating starting Neovolta a couple of years back. Price-wise, we are extremely competitive. Tesla is about the cheapest in the industry for the bang for the buck that you get. If you want to do a direct apples to apples comparison between us and Tesla, we most likely install within a couple of $100 of a single Tesla Powerwall. Obviously, with Neovolta, you can add extra 2 batteries. Everybody doesn't need additional inverting power. But at Tesla, if you want to add extra battery, you have to add extra inverter as well. So that's one of the things that we did this a little bit different.
Wait, I'm sorry. You can use one inverter with multiple batteries?
We take an extra set of batteries, and put it in the other cabinet we call the NV24, because that takes the NV14 from 14.4 kilowatts of energy storage to 24 kilowatts of energy storage. That's a real competitive advantage. That's a little bit hard for the regulators to get their hands around, or permitting folks from time to time. We're very competitive on the core NV14 product. But when it comes to adding the extra 2 batteries, if you don't need extra inverting power, which I'll get into, nobody beats us on the price per kilowatt on the energy storage side. Tesla does some creative stuff. They move some math around. They'll give a big discount on the energy storage side if you're buying one of their big roofs and all that kind of stuff. So, but when you really break it out, what does an installer pay for a Tesla Powerwall and the gateway and all the stuff to make that work versus what Neovolta costs them? We're extremely competitive.
Do you feel these Chinese manufacturers who are obviously spreading their wings, like BYD is massive and getting bigger and bigger. In fact, Warren Buffett has probably made them at least a household name in Wall Street. Is this going to be your future competition more than Tesla, which is trying to like do solar and everything together into one package, right?
We're small compared to all those guys, but we're new and we're doing some exciting things that nobody else can do. There's going to be a lot of competition coming in the market space just because now things that the average homeowner took for granted 20 years ago, now they have to pay attention to. Other than how much electricity costs you, who cares 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Right.
Today you care because your kids are on Zoom, on school, you're running your business from home, and the grid's going down. And by the way, they're charging 4 times as much at the evening when the sun goes down because solar has entered the space and it's messed up the utilities cost and production curves. So utilities are fighting back against that. And we're not building nuclear power plants. We're shutting down coal plants. They want to shut down the natural gas plants. Solar is not really ideal for areas that rain or snow half the year, because it's making 10% of what it could. And the wind doesn't blow all the time. So there is no perfect next thing for electricity production.
Geothermal?
Yeah. Well, I saw some reports that the government's finally talking about maybe opening up Yellowstone, if you will, to put some geothermal. Hawaii had geothermal over on the Big Island, and a couple of years ago, the volcano went off, and now that geothermal is covered in lava. Our electricity demand is skyrocketing, and yet our electric supply is not growing to keep pace. We're getting more and more blackouts and brownouts. I mean, look at the problem that happened last winter in Texas. And then when it's super cold outside and you have no electricity, you're literally putting people's lives in risk. You know, how many people now live at home in their elder years instead of going to nursing homes, which is great. But now your home has got all kinds of medical equipment and medications that need refrigeration and all these things that we didn't consider 20, 30 years ago. So now when the power goes down in your home, unless you have a backup generator, your life could be at risk. Your business can certainly be at risk. And, you know, if you have an electric vehicle and you didn't charge it up last night, and now the grid went down and you can't get out of your garage because you don't know how to open the garage door, and you got 5 miles left in your new electric vehicle. I mean, what are you going to do? There's really only 2 answers to do anything about it. One, put in an expensive generator that maybe you operate a week or 2 a year. Okay, well, you know, or you can put in an energy storage system, anybody's energy storage system, and you can get time of use or rate arbitrage benefit on a daily basis, meaning when the sun goes down and the utility wants to charge a lot more money, the battery's discharging, so it's saving you money. Or you can have it set up to where it's the battery sitting there basically in storage and only operates when the grid goes down. My main competitor, who's huge, and we've mentioned them a couple times already, they have limitations on what you can do with their product. One shoe doesn't fit everybody, right? Say here in California, they got this thing they started a couple of years ago because the utility caused a fire, burns down a town, kills a bunch of people. The utility got sued. They lost the lawsuit. And now their answer is if there's any risk that the Santa Ana winds are going to come the wrong way, there's going to be a fire risk, they're going to turn off large regional areas of electricity. That's really bad. So some customers don't care about saving money, you know, when the sun goes down and time of use rates kick in. They care about our grid goes down a bunch and I've got needs. And whatever those needs may be, they're legitimate to them, right? So some people only want the battery to discharge if the grid goes down. Well, that's great. Neovolta can do that. Some of my competitors cannot.
Why is that? It's just because they don't see an interest in it? It sounds like it's something that's just software.
Yeah, could be software, could be the way they set it up. And it also depends on the architecture, how they built the system. So I don't know, but we can do it.
Got it. So here's a question for you leading off what we discussed. Do most of the systems that you install, are they 90% connected to solar, or just some people just want that 8 hours, like you said, at their house? So
charging from the grid.
And does it matter to you? Obviously it doesn't, but I'm just curious, are people going towards solar more and more?
Neovolta does not require you to have solar. A lot of our competitors do. They only charge from solar. we can charge from the grid. Why would you want to do that? Well, everybody doesn't have sufficient roof space. Or it's not, the roof space they have is, all angular, looks great from an architectural point of view, but it's terrible for putting up solar panels, right? So they have very limited areas. But if you don't have good roof space, or maybe you're in a part of the country where you don't get a whole lot of sun, you might need to supplement and back up with grid charge, right? And so for Neovolta, that's pretty easy. And I'll give you two quick scenarios. So for Neovolta, if you have a small solar system that maybe in the summertime it gets plenty of solar and plenty of production, but in the winter you're making like 800 watts an hour. Well, your home's probably using that. So what's charging a battery? Well, Neovolta, that takes 2 minutes. We do some settings changes, and now we can back that up with grid charge at the same time, provided it's legal for the at the utility level to do that. We've got customers that don't have solar at all. Various reasons for not having solar at all. They want the battery, can't afford the solar. Can they just do a battery and charge from the grid and then discharge at night, or keep it as a grid out option? Yes, that also is a 5-minute change. Piece of cake.
So I want to make sure here that the only reason to install a battery without solar is obviously your system can say, I don't know, you tell me how you detect this, but how much it is per kilowatt at a certain time, because you want to use that energy when it's more expensive, right?
So our local utility has 16 different rate plans. PG&E in Northern California has got a lot of different rate plans. So the installer knows what those rate plans are. They know what the optimum discharge is. Some of these rate plans start as early as 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, if the sun is still shining, the battery just sits there, in standby mode. But whenever there's not enough solar and it's after that time, then the battery can start discharging. There's one other thing that I really like on this grid charge thing. Say you bought an electric vehicle and your particular utility wants you to have an electric vehicle, right? Because it increases. You used to get X before electric vehicle. Now you get X plus 30% of power. Right. So they just got a new customer, right? Good for them. And, but they want to encourage you to charge up that vehicle in the middle of the night. Why? Energy usage at the residential level starts spiking in the morning. And then it goes down to a much less usage level throughout the day. And then about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it starts picking up again. So energy usage skyrockets in the afternoon. But then about 10 p.m., people have gone to bed and energy usage drops down again. And so now you've got this spot for the utility where in the morning they had to greatly increase their production, throttle it down in the afternoon, and even throttle it down further because now all this excess solar is pouring onto the grid. So the utility's got to really throttle down their plants. And then half an hour before the sun starts going down, they got to throttle the plant way back up again to make up for air conditioners and everybody's home. And then at 10 o'clock at night, they got to turn around and shut it all down because everybody's asleep. So it's driving the utilities crazy. They would prefer to run their power plant at 78 to 85% steady state all the time. Here it is. But instead, they're throttling it up and down multiple times a day. It's driving them crazy. They want people to get electric vehicles, one, because it increases the demand, but also because they want people to charge these vehicles between midnight and 6 in the morning. Why? Because they can keep that plant at a higher rate while everybody is sleeping, right? It increases their efficiency, lowers their cost. It decreases the amount of maintenance on plants. It's just good for them. In San Diego County, our utility, they got a special plan. You pay $28 a month and you get unlimited kilowatts for 9 cents a kilowatt. Remember, I told you during time of use, they're charging as high as 60 cents.
Right.
9 cents a kilowatt between midnight and 6 in the morning. They want you to charge up your car. Well, we can charge Neovolta at that time too. And so now your battery is full in the morning. So when the solar kicks in and your solar starts running your home, instead of having excess solar going to recharge your battery every day, it's going right back to the utility as a net credit. So now you win because that net credit is higher at that time too.
They're basically shooting themselves in the foot.
They're trying to solve one problem, but they're taking some money out of their pocket.
Actually, I've never heard someone give the pro that like a gas or a coal company or a plant would want us to charge our cars. I've never heard that pro, but basically, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, they have a lot of incentives. They do give you incentives. Like I got the charger, I got a $500 rebate to get the charger. So we have an electric vehicle, and it's the same thing. At the time, it was 8 cents a kilowatt hour in the day, or 13 cents a kilowatt hour at the peak, and then like 8 after 8 p.m. So we set the charger not to come on till 8 p.m. Even if it's plugged in, it just flashes yellow till it's in standby mode. And at 8 p.m. it comes on for the cheaper price. But what I noticed that too, even with the time of use, is that it does jack up my tier 1 usage, which then pushes me into tier 2.
And then your rates go up because
then my rates go up. Right.
You don't actually install these systems, correct?
Not correct.
Do they just buy the system from you, or is there like a profit sharing thing that happens?
They buy the system from us wholesale. They get trained, they get all the documentation, they get everything. thing. And oh, by the way, with Neovolta, there aren't optional add-ons and stuff like that, other than adding extra battery capability, which is NV24. Everything is included. So one thing the installers love for us is everything shows up in the system. They don't have to at the last minute go run off the job site, go into electrical supply to get some special thing or whatever. It's all there. So no, we sell wholesale to them and they sell resale to the customer. And the difference in the price they pay for us versus what the customer pays is their labor, a little bit of profit, and the permitting. It's astounding to me. I've seen pulp permits cost at least $1,300. And in other areas, like in my backyard, they're free, you know? And so who's supporting stuff and who's not? It's very easy to tell.
Who services the system? If they install it and there's an issue with it, who services it? Is that them?
And warranties it. Who warranties it too?
If it's determined to be a Neovolta issue, which I'll know right away, right? If it's a Neovolta issue and they're anywhere near us, we just go take care of it. If it's in Florida, I'm not showing up tomorrow morning to fix something in Florida. So the local installer does that. It's all written in our contracts and I pay them. I send them the parts or whatever's needed and I pay them. Now, the good news is I haven't really had to do that. I mean, we've had a handful of inverter problems and a handful of battery. I mean, way less than what I would have projected. So I'm really happy about that. Fingers crossed. You know, time will tell. Just being honest. I mean, all technology has issues over time, generically, but we've got a plan to deal with all that stuff. And so far, it's not been a problem.
I'll just kind of throw some questions out to you and then see what you have to say. So the first question is, do you, or are you currently, or do you plan in the future to actually start making solar panels? It seems like you really understand how this technology works. Does Neovolta plan to make their own solar panel solution? That's
or at least sell it all as a one system.
Or sell it one. Question two would be, if you're not doing that, are you working on any deals with companies that produce the solar panels? So it's a bundled system where you can create something that an installer can just say, we're going to put this system and repeat it.
So no, I don't have any plans to get into the solar panel business. There's an incredible amount of competition. The solar panels coming out of China are as good as anybody's, and we're going to have a very hard time competing in the United States on cost to keep up with that. And two, on the solar panel thing and pairing with a particular solar manufacturer, we're all agnostic. Everybody's energy storage system can pretty much work with anybody else's solar panels. Two competitive things though, real quick. One, our inverter is bigger than the majority of our competitors. It's 7,680 watt inverter. Most of our competitors have a 5,000 watt inverter. That's why we came up with the add the extra 2 batteries, because we already have an inverter that's bigger than most of our competitors. Yeah. So you don't necessarily have to go buy another system. The other competitive advantage is really important for Neovolta. We can take DC solar directly. Oh my gosh. So remember I said all solar panels are DC, all batteries are DC, and you invert it in between to make, well, when you do that, you lose efficiency. Enphase IQ7s are really efficient, but they still use a 4% loss in making that happen. Plus, it's the cost of all those components, and it's north of $100 per panel to have those microinverters put in. That drives cost to you, the customer, putting in solar or putting in energy storage. But Neovolta, we work with Tigo products, and you got to put an optimizer underneath each DC solar panel. Here's the reason why. I get pushback routinely about this, that people don't understand the nature of a DC solar panel. Say you've got 10 panels on one string, all connected together, and they're going down to the energy storage system or whatever. If one panel gets shade, it shuts down the voltage on the entire string. So that chimney that was not casting a shadow in July might be casting a shadow in January. And if it is, you get no solar production until that shading issue goes away. For $40 a panel, that's the cost of Tigo optimizers. That problem goes away. So significantly cheaper to install, and the efficiency goes up because now you're not inverting DC solar to AC to then DC battery, DC, right? So if you're just doing DC, it's direct. You take off the inverting on the Neovolta side as well. I can easily document it's a minimum of 10% efficiency on a yearly basis and significantly less to install. Neovolta is kind of on the forefront of pioneering that, if you will, DC solar direct in the industry. Most of our competitors, you can look it up, you get this spreadsheet, look and see if they're AC coupled only. So we can take AC solar, we can take DC solar, and we could take AC and DC solar. Why would somebody want AC and DC? Why would they do that? You installed solar 5 years ago. It's AC solar. It's either microinverters or string inverters. It's still under warranty. If you mess with that system, you've now thrown the warranty away. But now with Neovolta, you can just do it as DC, and it comes in, it's more efficient, and it's less to go in. I got quite a few installs that have both AC and DC, and it works great.
So are you saying you are basically the only guys doing that? both
Taking direct
AC and DC,
direct-
taking
direct
both?
about it.
We have another competitor that does it on the inverter basis, but they don't make energy storage systems.
Interesting.
And
Wow.
I
Okay.
know some of the big boys are trying to get into that space because they see it. So that's one thing I'm really proud of. We were way ahead of everybody on the larger size inverter. We were way ahead of everybody on lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry, and we were ahead of everybody on the DC solar. So slowly I see the big guys all starting to go, I think we should do that too. Right. So, okay, that's all right. I'm going to stay on the competitive side. I've got a few more tricks up our sleeves that we keep doing research and development on. And I'll continue to, you can ask my installers about every 3 months or so, I roll out new capabilities, and we're going to keep doing that.
I did want to cover, because you brought up expansion. Can you go a little bit more into the places you're expanding? When you say expansion, is there only one installer there that you get, or is this a group of people? Like, how is that working in an area?
Generally, we get contacted by regional installers. There's a regional installer, mom and pop shop, whatever. And then there's national solar installers, right? So, I had another contact just this morning from somebody that I'll call as a regional installer. Okay, we'll onboard them, and they'll end up doing a handful of systems every month, and we'll grow them, and and that goes. And that's kind of the bread and butter thing. But then you get larger contracts that are national installers. We're in talks with a couple of those, and we're pretty far down on a couple of contracts that should come to fruition that start putting us more at the national installer basis. Tesla did us an enormous favor. Tesla keeps stopping their supply of Powerwalls to their installers. Well, Tesla's got their own national installation capability, but they also provide to all these larger installers throughout the whole country, and everybody got hooked on Tesla, which great, good for them. The problem is they have shut down their supply 3 times in the last couple of years, and they've really irritated the market. And they go, hey, I don't care who else you're going to get, we're the big boys, and you'll just wait. It's been ongoing for about the last 5 months with them that all the smaller players haven't been able to get access to the Powerwall. So a couple of the big companies still are at a reduced level. Well, they're trying to roll out a new inverter. They're messing around with the chemistry. They're flirting around with lithium iron phosphate because they don't want to interfere with their own supply chain issues on the electric vehicle side. There's a variety of reasons why, right? But all I'm saying is every time they stop, people start contacting us. And the first question I get is, do you have supply? What's the onboarding process? And how long till I can start taking care of customers that now have been waiting? I hear this routinely. More than 9 months.
And what's the answer?
I go, yeah, let's onboard. I'll get you all set up within the month and convert those contracts. And here's an important one in California.
So within a month, you can send out whatever. As soon as they get onboarded, within a month they get their system.
They could pick up systems tomorrow, but within a month, I'll onboard them, get them all the paperwork, the permits, make sure they understand everything, train them, all that kind of stuff. Tesla's got the name, they get the $1 trillion company. They've got all that stuff.
What do you think of that? What do you think of them hitting $1 trillion?
Well, good for them. They're selling stuff at a loss. You guys focus on stocks. You know what that's all about. Good for them, but they keep hurting their reputation. That's not good. And I'm going to take advantage of that at every opportunity I get.
So here's the thing why I was bullish on you, and we were actually discussing you over a year ago, right? When you were around $4, now you're around $7.
That first 10x video we did.
And so you're growing, obviously. How is your company still so small and unknown? And why aren't you doing more PR to get the word out? Because it's hard to find interviews with you. This might be the only one.
That was actually one of my questions.
Right?
Are you intentionally keeping a low profile, say online? Because most companies.
How are you not 10x bigger? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Most companies at this market cap will reach out and have a big social media presence to grab that retail investor. It would make me think either you couldn't handle a ramp up if it needed, or you've got something bigger planned that this is not a market.
Well, he's smiling, so he has something bigger.
There's something smiling.
So it was intentional. Okay. It was totally intentional. So look, we talked about this offline before, but just real quick. So 31 years I was in the Marine Corps. I retired as a full bird colonel, but I had 3 jobs as a colonel for the Marine Corps in like the last eight years of my time in the service. And I was a pilot, but I worked directly for the Secretary of Defense, and I was in charge of acquisition for all helicopters and tilt rotor aircraft for the entire Department of Defense. Learned a lot of stuff about manufacturing and supply chain issues and logistics and all these things. So stuff I'm very well versed in now. Then I had Colonel Command out in Hawaii, and I was actually responsible for a couple of base areas. And the problem in Hawaii is, still 90% of the electricity in Hawaii is created by burning the nastiest oil on the planet. Okay. They don't have natural resources on an island. They don't have coal, natural gas. They got wind, they got some solar, but they got problems with the infrastructure. Power kept going down all the time. So my 3-star general said, hey, we can't keep having the operations center shutting down just because Hawaii Electric Company can't keep the power on. So we started putting in solar. I said, well, there's the answer for the day, but if we're really going to get into this thing, we're going to have to do some batteries. So I started experimenting with some of that stuff as a colonel. And then I was posted to U.S. Third Fleet here in San Diego and got into the challenges of what do you do with all this lithium battery technology that's on all the aircraft now? Where do you store it on the ship? You know, having a fire risk on a ship is not good in the Navy. And you can just watch how the USS Bonhomme Richard burned down to the waterline a year and a half ago here in San Diego. Somebody did some bad stuff and it burned that ship down, and it's going to become a coral reef in the next couple of years. Tragic, right? So I started experimenting with all this stuff. And so why am I not 10X already? This is complicated stuff.
It's only a 10X. Why are you not getting out to the public and telling everybody what you're doing?
Yeah,
I understand. So this stuff is complicated. You're rewiring somebody's electrical on their house. You're rewiring all their circuits. You're putting in a battery. You're putting in an inverter. We're brand new, unproven, untested. I wanted to keep things local in San Diego until I made sure that all the battery technology was correct, the inverter technology was correct. We knew exactly what all the installation issues were, what all the permitting issues were. And so by design, for the first 2 years, I really held the company back. We've not even been in Northern California for just a little over a year. I kept this thing local in San Diego because if there were problems, I wanted to be in my backyard so I could figure it out. And I didn't want to all of a sudden, hey, we got systems all over the place and everybody's having the same problem at the same time. I mean, that's a quick way to go bankrupt, right? I didn't want to do that. So we kept this thing local. I made sure it was perfected, that we knew exactly everything, you know, could possibly conceivably go wrong. And now when an installer calls and they're having a problem on the install site, they don't get 30 seconds into telling me what's up on the phone. I tell them exactly what the problem is. So that was by design, right? So now I have declared us technologically mature, okay? Now we're starting to roll out nationwide, okay? And that's...
Okay, so you're saying basically the PR push is happening
right
now in Freelancer Finance. That's
right now in Freelancer Finance, the 10X has begun.
I mean, I think things will go wrong. Right. Somebody made a manufacturing mistake a year and a half ago and it finally reared its head, right? Those things will happen. But the concern I had with starting this company from, I mean, who's I as Marine Colonel? The heck do I know about this stuff, right? So I wanted to make sure that we didn't roll out and then all of a sudden have big issues that we didn't have answers for, right? So intentionally small, local, for a period of time to become technologically mature. So you're saying, well, Brent, why don't you crank up the PR machine? And I would say, be patient. I have plans. How many startups even survive the first 3 years?
Right.
How many startups turn profitable within the first 3 years?
I mean, okay, so just to cover, you are profitable, correct?
My plan is working. I'm on track.
Okay.
Well, you can read our latest S1. Yes.
So I did want to ask you, because you did mention Enphase earlier. Do you feel at all threatened by their upcoming IQ8 system that can have storage without the battery?
Well, that can continue solar production without the storage, right?
So it's interesting. It's interesting what they're trying to do. There was another company a few years ago that tried to do something very similar. It didn't work very well for them. I'm keeping an eye on it. Hey, I'd be naive to say I'm not worried about some billion-dollar company and what they're dumping resources into. I would never say that I'm not concerned about competition. But I like competition. It makes me work harder. And
so Marines, come on.
So, you know, somebody's come up with a new bell and whistle. It makes me go, oh, what the heck is that all about? Can we do that? I like that.
Is competition bad? Because the space is so small right now. I think it's 1.5% of the country that's covered in solar, right?
And so literally nobody's covered by energy storage. I mean, the solar industry is arguably between 15 and 20 years old. And you just articulated that it still is relatively on day one. Some areas are much further along, like San Diego, because it doesn't rain here, which is bad for other reasons, but lots of solar production. Maybe not a whole lot of solar production up in Vermont, but it will go that way. You know, cost of solar came down over the time and now electric costs are going up. So where something wasn't competitive in an area because maybe they have a lot of overcast or a lot of rain most of the year, maybe it wasn't really financially viable 10 years ago, but now all of a sudden it's starting to be viable. So the same thing's going to happen in the energy storage space. I mean, you know, two things we know over time, right? The more you make of something, the cheaper it gets over time, or maybe the price stays the same, but the technology takes a huge leap ahead and stuff. And then so what was appropriate for a small segment of society at one point, you fast forward a period of time and now all of a sudden everybody needs it, or it's financially viable for everybody. And all I know is, I go back to when we first started this conversation, was that electricity demand is skyrocketing and yet supply is not. there's a delta in there. And that delta is going to be energy storage systems if you care about not having blackouts, or if you're in an area that when the sun goes down, because of all the solar customers they have, that the rates skyrocket. Either way, that answer is energy storage system. And the space is literally a day one.
Yeah.
We got into, you're not going to be doing solar, but are you going to be doing something similar to like mega packs or anything for grid storage, or is that not even on the horizon?
So I've got some partners. I got some things going on. We're already
guys, 100x.
When you see that, okay, guys, when you see that smile on his face,
I'm so happy now.
We have access to very large commercial and industrial stuff. But I got to tell you, 14 kW of energy storage is zero for large commercial contracts. It's like, we've got 8 servers here that runs them for an hour and a half. You know, they don't care about that. You need large industrial sized batteries. So the good news is our battery manufacturer has that capability. It is a space I'm interested in getting into. Look, we're going to continue to have these issues where supply is here and demand is way up here, and there's plenty of market segment for everybody in there. And I've got my eye on a bunch of that stuff, and we have plans to have resources to allow me to explore.
Well, I wanted to discuss the future. That's what I was looking at here.
Yeah.
What is the future of Neovolta? Let's say 5 years out, and this is, I want you to be practical. What do you think is going to happen within 5 years for your company, and what do you think is going to happen by 2030?
Well, what are your goals, right? What are your goals? Well, we can look at the milestones and see that you're on track with what your plan is.
Yeah, I think goal-wise, I think everybody's going to figure out the supply and demand thing. That's going to drive the market. A 5,000 watt inverter is not good enough. That's why Tesla says, oh, the average home now needs 4 or 5. Okay, well, everybody can't afford $60,000 in just batteries. But that's going to be the market trend. In California now, you know, all new homes are supposed to have solar. Well, the problem is the government doesn't rate what that stuff really is. And so a new home builder puts 6 panels up there. Well, 6 panels doesn't, that doesn't do it. Now they're articulating that all new homes can't have any natural gas at all. So your home heating system is not natural gas, it's electricity. Whoa, that's really going to drive usage. Your water heater is electric. Your stovetop, your oven is a big natural gas one. If you happen to have a pool or a jacuzzi or whatever, that's going to have to be electric. So all this thing is driving electric. My point is, as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation, you know, X years later, right? So they're talking about having to have 400 amp sub panels or panels built into the house, main service panels, to include a generator jack already built in, to include an energy storage thing already built in. And I look at that and I go, okay, that's great, but a 5,000 watt inverter is not going to do it. You know, we're quickly going to get into where you need like a 20,000 watt inverter, and then you're going to need 40 or 60K of energy storage stacked and to go with that, right? We're not there yet. So
is your prediction that California and other places will say you need to have battery storage? Is that sort of where you're heading to? Like you have to have it as part of the build?
They're going in that direction now. So the first thing is to make everybody have to have solar, then is to make everybody have to have electricity, not natural gas. And the next thing is going to be, you got to have battery systems. And they're working on it. And chemistries are going to change all the time. So the size of the inverter is going to have to go up significantly. Okay, that's relatively easy. The battery systems are going to have to go up. So like Neovolta can be installed inside or outside. Inside installs now in California is a real problem because it's a battery fire issue. And so they're really limited. Where can you do it inside? You got to put in bollards and smoke detectors and all these other things. And your drywall's not thick enough and all that stuff. So some of our competitors are having problems with that. And then there's spacing requirements between all these systems. So Neovolta can be installed on outside, and the rules and regulations are not nearly as dramatic in that. And so why that's called NEMA Type 3R, it's indoor outdoors, because you can take the rain. So we're fully certified for both inside and outside. A lot of our competitors are only inside. Oh, wow. Ooh, that's interesting. So as this stuff grows, one, it's got to be outdoor rated and certified and stuff. It's got to get a lot bigger. And quite frankly, the battery chemistry is probably going to change. And I think the electric vehicle market is really going to drive that over time, because somebody's going to need to jump a couple of $1 billion into that space. So just as an example, so lithium ion, which all electric vehicles currently use, really lightweight, it's inexpensive, but you get this fire risk. Lithium iron phosphate will never go in a vehicle because it weighs too much, and that's a drag. So what's going to be chemistry next? Well, I kind of like this carbon foam stuff. There's some others coming out, but they're 5-10 years down the road. So you're asking a 5-year question, right? I don't know. Put it this way. I got my finger on the pulse. I know what's going on. I'm looking for what is going to be the next thing. And I got to tell you, as soon as it becomes clear, or if we can drive that side of the answer, we're going to. People want to do the best they can to get off the grid. That's definitely down the road, right? But energy storage systems are going to have to get a lot bigger and a lot more capable to be able to address that, because what good does it do if your computer is on and your TV's on and you can get in and out of the garage door and your refrigerator's on, but you've got an elderly couple in a house or something like that and they're really heat susceptible and your air conditioner doesn't work because the grid's down and your energy storage system isn't big enough to run it. I mean, people don't think about it, but one air conditioner is probably using 4,000 watts an hour. Well, if one of our competitors, if the size of their inverter is only 5,000 watts, you're using it just to run the air conditioner. Well, what's running the rest of the stuff? So that's my thing. We're at day one in this space, and it's going to have to get a lot bigger, and the price is going to have to come down so it's affordable by the masses.
So just to reiterate, because this is important, I just want to condense it. You're thinking, well, one, product-wise, mega packs or whatever, that is a possibility in the future. Two, you're probably thinking or working on bigger storage currently, bigger battery systems currently in some sort of development that 2025, we can see something like double, triple the size. Is that accurate?
I won't put a timeline on it, but yeah, we're working on that stuff. I mean, one of it was add the extra 2 batteries, right? So as we get further down
at
the
24K, you already have the biggest battery, I would assume.
That's the biggest.
I don't know anybody
considered on one energy storage system, sure. But what's it going to take me to get to 34 kW? Okay, I'm working on it.
2 questions for you. Are you at all concerned with Ford's technology where you can plug this 187 kilowatt hour F-150 into your house and actually use that as storage for your house? And the second thing, which is one of my most important questions, is an offshoot of you intentionally keeping a low profile. What do you think is the biggest misconception about Neovolta for both for consumers and for investors that you want to clear the air, that you want to set straight?
Any electric vehicle, let's say it's fully charged, right? You got a big 100 kilowatt battery system sitting right there and the grid is down. Why can't you use that battery to power the home? But it's not as easy as just go plug into the car. You got to do transfer switches and stuff. You got to disconnect from the grid because remember, you can't pump power onto a grid that's down, right? So there's some mechanisms and stuff to do that. But the problem within that is you don't pay attention. You know, is everybody's vehicle full all the time? No, but maybe it was. And you sat there and now you drained the electric vehicle and now you're back into a blackout. The grid's not back up and now you can't go anywhere in your vehicle either. So, you know, I like it. It's an interesting concept. And it's more than a concept, but there's going to be a lot more equipment involved. And then I go back to in the 1980s, people didn't pay attention to having to do all this stuff with electricity, but now they have to. So it's going to be a whole lot more customer interaction. And I got to tell you, everybody's not capable to be running, dragging cords all over the place and throwing switches and doing stuff. And when you mention electricity, they're quickly uncomfortable. And so there's some growing pains with that. But to be fair, 10 years ago, nobody was comfortable using an iPhone, and look at where we are now too. So things are going to keep changing for sure. Misconception about Neovolta? I don't know that there are any. People just haven't heard of us, and that's okay. We'll change that. I don't know there's a misconception. I'll tell you, we're kind of on the forefront of doing things that I've mentioned a couple. There's more things that we are capable of that our competitors aren't. So I like to think we're kind of on the forefront of research and development and what can be done. And not to discredit any of them, I'm sure they're looking at that stuff too, but they just haven't heard of us.
I know I speak for Vitaly in saying that we would love to get a tour of your facility, see some of the people that you're working with and see some of the product at some point.
We can talk about that. Hey, you know, COVID's made things really hard. You know, everybody's running around with masks and stuff and you can't come in and who are you and stuff like that, you know, so it makes it hard. We're generally not open for public tours, but you know.
I did want to talk about your factory because I think right now you have one space where you actually assemble and build these things, right? You sent us a picture or two. How many batteries can you produce out of that? That's the first question. And the second thing is there plans to get a second location somewhere, maybe closer to somewhere in the South or somewhere, I don't know, wherever it makes sense for you to do a second factory?
Right now, I could do 4 times more that we're doing right now just by hiring a couple of people. We got the space. It's no big deal. Then we can add on shifts and stuff. One interesting thing about being in the Marine Corps, and people just don't know this in general, but even on the aviation side, when a Marine comes in, they come in on a 5-year contract. And at the end of that 5 years, we only retain 30% of them. That's all we have room for, because it's an up or out manpower structure. You know, we need lots of 18 to 24-year-olds with good, strong knees and backs, right? We don't need old people like me. So there's an awful lot of Marines that their contract is over. They don't know what they're going to go on to do. Are they going to go to college? Where are they going to get a job or whatever? But they know they want to stay in San Diego. And so generally it's a couple phone calls and we can get help, right? So I'm not really having an issue. We can grow. My supply chain all says they can grow. and then I can add night shift, I can add swing shift, I can add shift. So at our current location, we can do quite a lot more. If demand is there, we can grow. I'm convinced, no problem whatsoever. However, we're in a manufacturing spot in Poway, which is part of San Diego, and it's a big industrial complex, and buildings come up for lease next door routinely. There's opportunity to grow and expand in Poway. And if we need to, we can do that too. So it all depends on my end. If the demand is there, I will figure it out. That's not a problem.
Right. You don't actually need to open it up somewhere else because you're just going to ship the system anyway to the installer. So you can be in the same location, even a second facility if you needed it. That's what you're saying, right?
Correct.
And the additional weight that your batteries have, say shipping them to Pennsylvania, let's say, that's offset by your profit margins?
Shipping's an issue now just because costs have gone up so much. There's just not drivers, there's not truck drivers, there's port challenges, all this kind of stuff. So when there's more demand than there is supply, price goes up, right? At some point that'll moderate. I'm eating it for now. I haven't felt like it was the time to raise prices again. We may if it continues, but right now we're fine. Shipping any energy storage system all over the country is a problem. These things are heavy. I mean, even Tesla's, just the Powerwall by itself was like 260 pounds. These things are not light. So it is.
How heavy is your 14 kilowatt and the 24? How heavy is that?
The MV14 fully installed. We ship the batteries and everything with the unit, but they're external. They're 100 pounds each. There's 3 batteries, and you guys lift them on 2 handles and put them in. It's a piece of cake. I lift these. I'm old, and I lift these batteries all the time. I put the youngsters to shame, right?
The whole unit is 300 pounds?
300 pounds.
No, ours is 560 pounds, and it's got to be ground mounted, not on a wall, because it's iron phosphate.
Right.
Iron's a metal. It's very heavy. It's very heavy. It costs more, but it will not catch on fire. Well, I like the not catch on fire part, right? And then the NV24, that extra battery pack, that's about 270 pounds. Okay, but here's the deal. You're moving it once.
No.
Very long period of time. Who cares?
It's just the shipping cost, basically. It's probably more
the shipping cost. Like at some point, if you're moving enough units, would it make sense to open a factory somewhere closer?
It's not but if we're shipping multiple systems, it's like $100 a system. Don't care.
Okay.
It's not a big deal. Look, just ship one system could be like $400, but I could put on the same pallet double, and then it's like $800, but I got 4 systems instead of one. I mean, shipping just its volume makes up for that. It's not a problem.
So I don't see any Neovolta advertising at all. Meaning I found you by searching for you, basically searching for battery companies. So are you going to start doing some advertising push so people know you exist?
Do you see a lot of Tesla Powerwall advertising?
Well, Tesla's a special case, and we know this.
They don't advertise at all, really.
We know this.
Generac advertises quite a bit, but for the most part, they advertise their generator. I don't see a lot of Pika advertising, Sonnen, LG Chem. I don't see a lot of that. And so we did a bunch of advertising in San Diego, and we kind of found that wasn't the way to go. What resonated more was onboarding installers that really know your product, like your product. Look, our product installs in 1 day. Super easy. Most people aren't calling a solar installer and just wanting to talk about energy storage system. It's normally a solar installer, salesperson or whatever. They're there to talk to them about solar, and they go, by the way, are you interested in energy storage, or you happen to have a great system, blah, 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 whatever. Or the customer is saying, hey, but if I'm doing solar, I want to add a battery too. Or, hey, I already have solar, but I need more and I want a battery. So we quickly found out it really is the solar installers. So that network of installers we have, they're the ones that are doing our advertising for us. What has really worked is the solar installer sitting down with the customer. And if the solar installer believes in your product and they know it really well, and they know there's no challenges, and they can answer all the customers' questions, home run. So let me talk one thing about us versus our competitors. So what happens when a battery reaches the end of life? Most of our competitors, their battery is built-in integral part with their inverter. And so if the battery fails, an installer has to get authorization from that manufacturer to come remove and replace that system. But most of them remove it, rewire the home back onto the grid, send that very system back to get remanufactured. The customer is sitting there that whole time. They have no solar, they have no energy storage, and they're waiting to get this inverter system fixed, their battery system fixed. And then you get that identical one brought back to you 6 months later and put back on your house. That is how some of the biggest ones do it. I thought that was really stupid. So Neovolta, we can remove our front cover. You can have an inverter replaced if ever needed, in less than an hour and a half. And a battery could be replaced in 5 minutes. And the way we did our batteries and the way we did our inverter is now my cabinet is kind of agnostic. It's kind of a built-in compartmented area. Mm-hmm. And so when technology changes, or if there is a warranty issue or a maintenance issue or whatever, super easy to replace on the spot, no problem. Moving on, next.
Hold on, other manufacturers have not done this, where you can't replace the battery. You have to literally destroy the whole unit.
Well, you're saying you got to take the whole thing off the wall and send it.
You have to take the whole thing off the wall, send it back to get remanufactured, and during that time period,
that's crazy.
The customer doesn't have battery, doesn't have their inverter.
And in your case, the guy literally brings a giant brick, takes off the cover, puts another one in, and you're done.
So your enclosure is versatile. It's basically an enclosure that lets people customize it and build it as they need.
Over time, are the batteries going to get smaller? Are they going to get less expensive? Combination of both, whatever. We've built our system that I can plug and play whatever next technology is very seamlessly. And then it's just all about the programming, the ones and zeros to make the thing work as efficiently as it possibly can.
I do have a serious question here about software. The actual technology itself, you've made the case for why it's better, but a lot of this stuff is software. And what I know about like the Tesla system, for example, when you're all in the same mode now, you have the EV, you have the solar panels, you have the Powerwall, the way that it moves power among the car and the house and the solar is better.
It's seamless.
Than if it was, it's a seamless sort of really intelligent, really efficient. What is your capabilities on the software side, and what plans do you have on the software side to compete or to add functionality that you can get, because you're just a single product? How does your system play software wise in that ecosystem?
That's what happens when you have $1 trillion company. They can throw a lot of money at that stuff and figure that out. And they've got multiple products and they can make those products integrate, right? Mm-hmm. And we're kind of a standalone company. So there's limits to what I can do as a standalone company. What you're talking about is the energy storage system is also connected to the vehicle, which is connected to a smart home device that tells it, hey, you know what, we're low on energy and the grid went down, so turn off all these other devices. You're talking about integration of all this kind of stuff. It's more than just smart home. It's smart everything, the vehicle and everything else. So there's companies that are working on that stuff. I'm sure at some point we'll be able to play into that environment. We're not there yet. There is not controllability on our app, good or bad. It shows everything as it's going on. It shows what the home's using, how much is in the battery, how much solar production, if it's AC or DC solar, we have all that stuff, and how much is either going to or from the grid. We got every bit of that stuff. We got the fancy charts and all that stuff, but there is no customer interaction or programmability through that app.
As you grow, you can put it in.
That's really easy stuff
with
to add. With the Tesla system, for example, it has a dynamic sort of energy exchange. Power's coming in during the day. It knows that the car might need more power to charge because it's got a lower state of charge, and it'll shift power to the battery to get it to a certain level so you can be mobile. If rates are too high but you need to charge the car, it might pull it off the battery instead. There's a real dynamic exchange of energy that at the end of the day is trying to save you money and keep what you need charged.
So that 2025 thing I was talking about, are you working?
We definitely need to move in that direction. Yeah.
Okay.
And so the balance to me, and I kind of learned this as an aviator, the more you rely on human interaction, the more opportunity for things to get messed up, right? Or people forget to take it off of that grid outage mode. And then a month later, you figure out I got a huge electric bill because you forgot, right? So the more you can automate stuff and that is seamless, the better, right? And so we'll get there. We're not there today. That's one of the things on the list that needs to move up on really getting after that kind of thing.
So essentially what you're saying is that, and again, this is about the investor, is that we have not missed the ramp up. There's a lot more capacity you can still hold, right? Moving forward in the future in terms of taking on new customers. And you have your sight set on a specific target that's a lot larger than you are today. For people that are looking to come into the company, there's still a lot more to enjoy.
I would agree emphatically with all of that. And, but you need resources to make all that stuff happen. And we have plans to get those resources. So we have a plan. We're on track. I know great things are on our horizon. Near-term horizon.
Do you find it that the customer doesn't actually know that it's a Neovolta system? So you might have a brand recognition problem that you might have to solve. Then I have a second question, but go ahead.
Yeah, we've experienced a little bit of that. I mean, it depends. If they were in San Diego, they probably were contacting an installer and asking for us specifically. And most of the time, quite frankly, it's because of the lithium iron phosphate chemistry. People are really worried about their house burning down. But in areas where it's just an installer and stuff, no, they've never heard of us, and Neovolta is news to them, and then they go do some research and that kind of stuff. Is there room for marketing and getting the word out and starting to drive that from our end? Yeah, absolutely. What is that right message? Because as I talked about previously, some of that stuff didn't translate as easily as we thought it would have.
Can you tell us why? Obviously, your background we heard a little bit about, but how did you get into batteries at all? Like, how did this happen that you're a colonel and you're like, oh, let's do batteries?
So that's an easy and a quick one.
As
so
a startup,
I've got some. Yeah, I've got some venture capitalist friends of mine, been friends for a very long time in La Jolla. And they kept asking me what I was going to do, after the military. And, I would kind of give them a sarcastic answer. I don't know, Walmart greeter, airline pilot. I don't know what. I mean, I'm qualified for airline pilot. So
and Walmart greeter. You are qualified.
Yeah, maybe there's some training involved in that.
Maybe.
So
cashier.
So I said, hey, I don't know. I said, well, they also happen to have interest in a local solar company. And they said, we think the future of the solar industry is going to have to include a battery. And you know a little bit about that. And I said, yeah, and I would agree. And they said, well, could you recommend, who should they carry? Should it be Pika, Tesla, LG Chem? Who is it? And I said, well, there's a big convention coming up in Las Vegas in a couple of months, and it's Solar Power International. And I said, I'll go out there and I'll camp out. I'll go get back up to speed. I'll get real smart in the industry. Who's doing what? So I went out there. And
what year was this, by the way? What year was this?
That was in September of 18.
Okay, really
not that long ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's really recent.
And I literally went back to the hotel room every night and had just notes and notes and notes and notes. So I went back and made this big, huge Excel spreadsheet, and I kind of laid out who was everybody and what were all the different capabilities. And when I was putting all that together, then it was pretty easy to go, well, let's green code this one because that's kind of the top of the industry, and let's red code that because I don't like that at all. And for this reason, right? And I put notes on all this whole thing. But then I came up with a whole category way over to the right side of this thing that was stuff nobody was doing. And I went, that would be something that somebody should do. But my homework assignment for my friends here was, come back and advise them on who to do. So here was the long and the short of it. I came back and I basically said, if you want cost effective that generally almost any homeowner could afford, it's Tesla. If you want the Cadillac of the thing, it's Sonnen. And here's the key differences between them. And I said, everybody else in between, don't care. These two for these reasons, but probably Tesla. So unbeknownst to me, they took my Excel spreadsheet and they took my PowerPoint presentation and they went and shopped it out to a bunch of local installers in San Diego. And all of them came back and said, we don't know who this Colonel Marine Corps guy is, but he's exactly right for all those reasons. And if anybody gets around to building a system that has this stuff over here on the right that nobody's doing, we want in. So they came back to me, a month or so later, and they pitched me on I should start a company. And that's how it started. And they gave me the seed money to start. We did a couple of rounds initially getting us off the ground. And my big concern was, hey, I've never run a company before. I knew something about solar. I knew something about batteries and stuff like that. All this stuff is brand new to me. But I've got a background in aviation and mechanics and in technology and all that stuff. And then plus working for the Secretary of Defense and, at the national level with all helicopters and tilt rotors, and had meetings with the executives of all these companies and stuff. And so, okay, I've got an understanding of what would need to be done. And so we decided to start the company. And I said, I need 6 months on the research and development side to put it together. I filled the garage.
$5 billion.
Yeah. I filled you'd be surprised at how little I spent. And I filled the garage.
Oh, actually wouldn't surprise me. The way you think, it doesn't surprise me.
With company competitors' latest product, I still have remnants of some of those things in my garage and various cabinets and stuff that I took apart and figured out why they did certain things, whatever, right? I messed around with a lot of stuff. Then I started making strategic decisions like what was going to be the battery chemistry. I insisted on lithium iron phosphate. Super happy I did. What was going to be the size of the inverter? Wasn't going to be a 5,000 watt inverter. There's a reason why it's 7680. It's because that's 32 amps of power. It goes on a 40 amp breaker, and the 40 amp breaker can go on a 125 amp bus bar, which is very common on a lot of older homes. Otherwise, you just gave a potential customer a $3,000 panel upgrade. Why would I want to do that? So there's things that we did. Now it goes back to that spreadsheet, and then I learned things as we went along. So then I said, okay, here's the inverter. Found a manufacturer that'll white label to us. Here's the battery. Same thing. Now we can put it together. I got to build the cabinet here locally in San Diego, which we did, and then put it all together with all the other breakers and all the other stuff that we include. But in a year, we were up and running And the first install was on my house 11 months from me getting out of active duty service. And it's still running on my house. I've never upgraded it. The batteries haven't been upgraded. It never had a hiccup. As a matter of fact, 3 weeks ago, we were watching a DVR and the grid went down and the whole neighborhood was blacked out. And we didn't have a clue, except my wife got up to go to the refrigerator and said, hey, how come the oven light is not on anymore? Because the oven is not on Neovolta. And that was the first time I had a clue. And I went to the next door app and saw all these people complaining about it. Went out, turned on every light in the house and all this stuff. And now I got lots of neighbors asking, how come you had power and we didn't?
99 problems, man.
How many did you sell that day?
Right.
As an investor, I hope 5.
Calls on that one. So
He's
and,
like,
and
I
I
got
tell
all-
customers, so I've got one large shareholder that he's so proud. The grid goes down in his neighborhood all the time. I mean, it's like clockwork. And he's so proud of Neovolta, he literally starts throwing house parties and stuff like that. And the last time he did it, and he's got the MV24 combo, right? So then he ran out of power at 3 a.m. And he's like, Brent, I've never run out of power before or whatever. It's like, how come I ran out of power? And I go, well, Les, what did you do different last night when the grid went down versus last time? Oh, yeah, I had everybody over and we were throwing a party at my house and had on 4 big, huge 80-inch TVs and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, it's not a nuclear power system. You know? So,
He has to buy 3 more systems, right?
Right, now you
that's
gotta,
exactly
you
right.
need the
I said, well, we need
75.
one right over there.
Right. I really appreciate taking the time and also considering that you are so low key. I'm kind of proud that you came out of the shadows.
You came out of the jungle to say hello to
You came out of the
internet.
laboratory to say hi to
Hey,
us.
I saw your 10X thing right away. I sent you guys an email, but whatever. But I also saw your inquiry about New Jersey, and I wondered if that was you guys. I was like,
That was
huh, I
me.
wonder who
Yeah.
That
that
was
is.
Vitaly.
But we weren't in New Jersey at that time, you know. And so I reached out to you guys. I think that 10X thing had been up for about 2 weeks. I found out about it about a week and a half after that went up, and it took me a little time to try to sniff around and find an email address for you guys. But anyway,
That was one of our early, like one of our most successful videos at the time early on, and we were a little shocked about it. But
It seems like people want to know about you, but you weren't out there to provide anything. So
I wasn't ready.
we were even surprised at the response that it
well,
got so many
I found
views,
you guys from
honestly.
the video that I saw of Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank that was talking about you, showed it to Vitaly. So this was us, but like you said, we're probably where the average person will be in 5 years. We're just like total nerds in that sense. But I feel good that it kind of feels good that this has come full circle and this is where you're coming out.
So thanks for coming on obviously on the show.
Hey, it was fantastic spending some time with you. I hope I got some information out there to everybody, kind of trying to elevate everybody's level of understanding. This market is very complex, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And hey, let's just say I look forward to seeing you guys again, and we can continue to educate the market.
For everybody out there, if you enjoyed this video, if you're interested in Neovolta, please hit like and hit subscribe, hit the little bell to be notified. Put any questions you may have in the comments below. I feel like we should do a follow-up on this. I want to digest this and come back to it maybe in a few months. And because you said you got some new products, you got some things going that you can't talk about.
Yeah, we're going to check with you after
It'd be good to
January, if that's
see-
okay.
Yeah,
Where
maybe
we're
after
at.
January, so the new year, and kind of see how you're doing, see how some of this stuff is planned out. And
Why don't we do February?
That's fine.
so
February.
that tells you guys
Yeah.
buy Neovolta stock
Before
up until
February.
January, before February, because. But again, this is not financial advice.